Hi everyone and welcome to the Warhammer Podcast. We're your hosts, Jack
and Dan.
Today we're going to be looking at the latest changes that's been done to the Warhammer 40k app.
Yeah, fantastic changes there. They've listened to fans and made the right improvements.
Yeah, certainly have. We're also going to be looking at the latest Dataslate that's also dropped as well.
Oh my goodness, it's a beast.
Massive, absolutely massive. Loads to talk about. We'll get into that later on. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at the latest RTT that I attended as well.
Yeah, you took a kind of off-meta list and we'll find out how you did.
Certainly will.
But,
certainly will.
First up, let's get stuck into the news, shall we?
Oh, absolutely. The news itself. So the first thing that's happened is that there's a new thing, what's it called? Command Bunker, I believe is what it's called.
So we're talking about updates to the 40k app. And these are things that we've certainly been asking for and other people have been crying out for as well.
It's just so good.
Yeah.
It's just a condensed version of your list, basically.
Yes.
So whenever you used to make an app on the Warhammer 40k, or not an app, sorry, a list of your army on the Warhammer 40k app, it was basically had to keep on searching through. Now, to be fair, I didn't actually see that too much of an issue to search through the data cards and data slates on the app.
Yes.
Because they made it easy enough as it was, because there was a nice little search function in there, and all the stuff was kind of easily accessible.
It was just a few more seconds, but I guess it kind of adds up. So you would just just hang on a minute, and then you would scroll through until you got to the right unit.
Going up and down, where is it? It's in here somewhere. I'm sorry. But now what they've done is, instead of when you go to the top right, where you basically click the little export button, where you used to get it in like a little Word document, instead now it's that your actual units that you've selected. So instead of a massive list of your entire army, it's now just this units that you've selected as part of your roster.
With all of their stat lines, abilities, etc. Basically the data sheet, isn't it?
Exactly, which is just going to be so, it's one of them things where I was like, it's so nice to see, and I didn't even think they were going to do it.
It's lovely, and you know, for those of us who aren't stuck on Index Hammer like Necron players or Amrek or whatever that have got a codex, it also shows you which detachment you picked and what the rules are for that detachment.
Easily forgettable.
Enhancement rules, all of that. It's all in one place.
Like, how many times do I or you forget our abilities?
Oh, yeah.
Like during a game, it's like, it's like you get like halfway into a game, you're like, oh, my Lich God have -1 to wound. It's like, I completely forgot. So having this in all one little place is such a big step up.
Yes, it's a simple thing, but it's another example of their responsiveness. They've listened to people and understood that this needed to happen, and they made it happen. Thank you very much.
Because there's obviously other alternatives out there as well. So I think this is another way of staying ahead of them, basically.
Yeah, and we've talked about this in the past as well. Is like ultimately GW are like a $3 billion company, and if they can't produce a better app than a Russian guy in his mum's basement or something, then there's a problem.
There is a problem.
So in that respect, it should be the best.
Yeah.
And GW is the premium tabletop wargaming experience, so the app needs to be the same.
It is.
And to be fair, it's going that direction.
It is, because another good change that they've made is, it's as similar as it sounds, but it's so good, is just having a favorite section. So you can favorite your favorite units. It's in the name. Just so you can obviously find them a lot easier. And this is good because obviously you can use that across armies now as well. So you can obviously see, you might be looking or comparing data slates or data sheets instead of searching back and forth. Favorite them both.
Really good idea. I hadn't thought about using it that way, but I will do now.
It's good. Actually, that's another thing for, again, GW listening, but like a compare tab to be like, oh, this versus this.
Yes.
And like, imagine if it done like again, those are the websites online, the damage checker or something like that, or the dice roller, where it checks like the averages. It'd be good if you can do like compare the two units on the app and then be like, 1,000 times who wins, and it would be good to kind of see the damage and whatnot against that unit. If that was inbuilt into the app next,
that's a really good, damage output and a bit of the math hammer or the dice hammer would be really helpful, actually.
I don't think they would. I think that sounds like a lot, but it is a lot.
I don't know. I mean,
it is just math at the end of the day. It's dice rolls.
It is just math, and it could be done. And
people make it on Excel, for God's sake. So at the end of the day, it's not that hard.
No, it isn't, and it would be used. I think people would like that feature. That's a really good idea. So if you're listening, GW, that one next, please.
I'll take royalties. Free Warhammer, more than fine with me. But that's kind of the big app changes out there, which again, two really good changes that they've made.
Yeah, I was really happy with that. Another thing I was really happy about was, and I don't want to sound too egotistical, but the feedback that we had from the last podcast. And it was because of the topic that we talked about, which was, we talked about positivity and negativity in the hobby.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to say thank you for was Rally Point, who the guys there do a fantastic job raising funds and awareness for mental health through wargaming. They actually made a little video about our video. It's on Instagram there, so go and check them out. And if you don't follow them, you should. But the one that really kind of wore me cockles was a guy on Instagram called Brown Bear Wargaming.
Right. Okay.
Who we've had lots of interaction with on we have a good chat on with him on Messenger, usually on Insta. But he, on the back of watching our video, he watched it on Saturday morning or Friday morning, and by lunchtime he had he'd already set up basically the building blocks for his own local gaming club, because he wanted
very nice.
He took inspiration from the video and was like, well, I want to spread positivity in my community.
That's it. Yeah.
And the guy's a machine. I don't know what he does for a living, but whoever pays him probably doesn't pay him enough, because within the space of a few hours he'd spoken to local councillors, got funding secured, got sponsorship from donations from local gaming stores, reached out to other gamers to start building a community, and it was just like he'd just done it.
That's really good.
And and it's without being super cheesy, we have the ability to be the change we want to be.
Yeah.
Warhammer has a high entry level. You have to have something about you to be able to play this game, and that should give people a confidence to do more of this type of thing. If it doesn't exist in your community, or your community isn't what the type of community you want to see, go and change it yourself.
Yeah, that's really good.
So kudos to him. Really, really impressive. That
really well said, mate. Yeah.
And also, people reaching out to do collabs, collaborations, which is nice.
Well, that's obviously our New Year's resolution, isn't it? Try and get more collabs out there, so it's really nice to see.
So that's us trying to spread our community a little bit wider as well. So we'll not give the game away yet, but we've got some exciting guests coming up in March.
We do, it'd be nice. Yeah, stay around, subscribe for that. Maybe worth mentioning our first also collab we've done with Gambit Gaming.
Yes, Gambit Gaming are a fantastic t-shirt manufacturer. We really rate their t-shirts. Yes, whoever works at Gambit Gaming obviously listens to the podcast rather than views it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be suggesting me as a t-shirt model. But you can see Jack looking pretty fly there.
Get the flex on the go. What's the one? Check that collarbone out. But yes, no, thank you. Honestly, I absolutely love them. They fit so well. The logo looks absolutely lovely on them. We'll have a link in the description below. Please check them out.
So we're both video gamers as well as gamers. I imagine a lot of you are as well. And Gambit Gaming already have an established range of t-shirts inspired by video games, and they've got a new range inspired by Warhammer. So these we were very lucky to get sent a couple of these to try out, and we love them. Very good quality, very nice fit, and the logos, as you can see, they're embroidered, but they look really sweet.
Really nice.
So link in the description, check them out, and thank you very much.
Yeah. Now moving on to the massive changes done the 40k. There's so much. Literally, there's just so much to start with.
We're going to chalk this one up as another win in the predictions column, because we did talk about this, and we did predict it was going to be big.
Yeah, we did.
It's so big.
Oh, settle down. But it is, so isn't it? It's just massive. This is obviously the new Dataslate that's kind of came out.
Yes.
The changes that's been made, if anyone hasn't seen it. But there's obviously they went through the win rates as well for the new obviously. Meta Watch as well.
So we got with Meta Watch, they do a little video. You get an updated win rate table, although not for every faction, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And for those that are this 10th edition are new, or you're coming back to this, we talk the slang, if you like, or the shorthand in the community is a balanced data slate, but it's actually 3 sections.
Yes, there is.
So you get a Munitorum, if I can speak properly, Munitorum field manual, which is your points updates. Yeah.
Yes, certainly.
You get rules commentary, which is general, which is changes to the general rules, like the rules of the game.
Yes.
And then you get the balanced data slate, which is updated rules for your factions. So tweaks usually to your factions. Yeah. So we've got all 3 of those came out along with a little video. Unfortunately, Stu Black wasn't there. Stu, don't hide your loveliness. The people need to see it. One of the guys from the design studio, I think it was a guy called Josh, came and did it instead.
Yes, that's
and
it.
he did a fantastic job, actually.
Yeah, it was really good.
Really good. So if you haven't seen the video, it is worth a watch.
Yeah.
But we're going to, because of the size of it, I don't think we just can't talk about all of it. We'll be here for hours, wouldn't we?
Yeah, there'll be other YouTubers who do that sort of Allspec Tactics. I'm sure he does very good videos.
Yes, so
go check it out. We'll probably give it a glance overview and
we're going to give you the highlights and the lowlights. But overall, before we get into it, I think we both say that we're very impressed with what they've done, aren't we?
Yeah, well, I think for us, not changing Necrons at all. So pretty much, I think it's worthwhile saying every faction, to a degree, has had a change to some degree, that being points or small rules change. But Necrons, that was, what was it? It was kind of hinted at, wasn't it? That, Necron nerfs are coming, Catans are going up, this sort of stuff's going.
So the Necron, particularly on Facebook, but the Necron social media groups are super salty, and there was people complaining about the nerfs,
a rumor came out, and then everyone's like, "Oh my god, Necrons are gonna be trash," and the rules hadn't even came out. And then now that all the rules have came out, not a single
change in
has
Necrons
been made change wise, which is funny, absolutely funny.
So you can see from the win rate table that they published, Necrons at the moment are already joint top and outside the Goldilocks zone. So
56, let's go.
Tied with Eldari on 56% win rates. And just to remind you again, we've talked about this in the past, but if this is your first viewing of one of our videos, the win rate table, GW likes factions to be between 45 and 55% win rates. They consider that to be balanced. If you're above that Goldilocks zone or below it, then it's your faction needs addressing.
Yes.
So this one states that Necrons are above the Goldilocks zone, but they still didn't get any changes.
No.
So this is. As Necron players, we're rubbing our hands. But
it's great.
There was a period in 9th when they brought out the Nephilim book when we had amazingly easy secondary objectives to do, and that was like the golden age in 9th edition for Necrons. It
certainly was. You literally just sit on objectives and you were scoring like
that's all
15
you had to do.
points a turn. It was so easy.
Well, this time now, between now and the next balanced data slate, is going to be the golden age in 10th for Necron. So if you're a Necron player, enjoy it while it lasts.
Get all the wins in now.
Play
start playing as much as you can. Get your ITC points up up there. Start playing. But I mean, I want to just say that for being, I mean, again, I know we're saying we're outside the Goldilocks zone, but we're only out by 1%. And there's again about 2 factions on 54%. So they're Leagues of Votann and Chaos Space Marines. That's not far off being from where we are, 2% change.
Yeah, exactly.
So although we're saying we're above the Goldilocks zone, I think it's still a massive well done to the GW team for getting the game so balanced from where it's at. And I mean, it's not a much increase, but Drukhari are now outside or inside the Goldilocks
zone. Yeah, they were just outside in the last data slate, and they were the only faction below it, weren't they?
Yes,
and now they're just clinging on at 45%.
But there was a lot of 5 armies in there with 45% win rate.
Imperial Knights, Nids, Guard, and Blood Angels are all in there, 45% win rates.
Definitely. But again, really good job. But the list looks a bit shy there, Dan, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. So they missed World Eaters off completely.
Why? So my theory is that World Eaters are doing so bad that they're on 37%, and they were like, we don't want to include those stats inside this,
But also, I noticed I was counting them up. I thought somebody else is missing it. It took me ages to work out. Do you know who it is?
No.
I'm gonna. It's Black Templars are not on there either.
Have they been joining with another faction?
I don't know. They're just. They're just not in there. So they just for somehow they forgot 2 lines on the table.
Maybe the filter was set to 45% upwards.
They're
below us. They're like, nah, get rid of those. Don't want them on. Yeah.
But that tiny error aside, the data slate looks good. The balance in the game is pretty decent. It's probably the best I think it's been.
Yeah, I like it so as well. But
if Eldar, we'll come on to them when we talk about what's happened in the data slate. But they're probably going to drop down. There might be another factions that challenge at the top, but Necrons are certainly going to be among them. Again,
considering Necrons are there as it is, and we've not had any changes whatsoever.
Changes at all,
I reckon we're going to stay around there or drop maybe 1% or something like that. Not much at all.
I think we're going to be strong.
Yeah, definitely.
So
moving on.
Yes.
The Minotaurium field manual then, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is your updated points, and so the way that you can judge how a faction is either improved or declined or stayed the same is on the points changes, which is the first tool in the box for GW. Sorry, we've got a dog attack here under the desk. Hello, Jess. And then also that's combined with the actual data slate, which is tweaks to the rules of your faction. And then occasionally as well, sometimes a general rule change will impact a faction, as we'll talk about. Custodes, for example, is a great
little change.
Yes,
for sure.
So overall, this is, as we said, this is a massive. I think one thing that is worth highlighting is the studio explicitly stated in the video that it's starting to look deeper into internal balance. Again, we can joke about this, but this is something that we've been beating the drum for several episodes.
Yeah.
And what we mean by internal balance is the fact that your faction might have, say, a 55% win rate, but you might only have there might be one build that you can play.
Yes.
You have to take, for example, in Index Hammer, you would have had to take 2 bricks of Lich Guard for Necrons. In order to be competitive. So what internal balance is like right, well, how do we tweak those units so that tweak that imbalance so that the Lich Guard are not quite as good, but we give you other options, so we make the other options a little bit better, so that there's some more play across the whole codex. You know, can you take your Scorpex or your Ophidian destroyers or whatever? So internal balance, it's great to hear them talking about that, and this data slate is the first time that it looks like they've started to address that. If this data slate ensures that the win rates are roughly balanced, that's where we're going to see the focus for the rest of this edition. I think is on internal balance, which is really, really good. We've never ever had this level of love and attention, I don't think, to balancing the game. Which is phenomenal. It should be. That's what it's what we've been crying out for. But it's great. Fair, we have to give them credit where credit's due.
Well, again, they've been making some really good changes, and again, we'll talk more about what good changes they've made later on. But so far, it's on the up for me.
Yes.
For GW. Another main changes. What to their battle line units? Like the points have been lowered for like Chaos Demons, Space Marines, Intercessors. Just a wide assortment of indirect fire units as well, like such as Whirlwinds.
They had the points increased in direct fire, yes. So there's that. They used those are the main changes to look for. They're still trying to make battle line more of a thing, I think. And and
it's like I don't take any battle line units in my army.
I think Necrons are an interesting one because warriors are just still not good. And they couldn't really. They struggled to make warriors work in 9th really well, and I think they're actually worse than they were in 9th now.
They're definitely worse there, because they've obviously lost like the D6 or the D3, the D3 plus 3 reanimation
the extras
wounds
that you were getting for reanimation.
It's just not really good. And to be fair, their transports are just really bad. Like all of our vehicles out there can obviously hold their full unit, but Necrons can go up to what 10. No, 20 or something like that.
20, yeah.
But they can go up to 20, but their transports only hold 10. And
yeah.
it's like, well, just make it more. And then it might be viable.
There are other factions like Drakari, Kabalite Warriors are battle line, and they've been good in this edition. There are some factions, but that's what they're trying to do is make sure that each faction has got a battle line. But also in things like Chaos Demons, they're trying to make sure that it's not just running the big demons. You have to. They want to see more of the little fellows on the table as well.
That's true. That is true.
But yeah, and indirect fire. I'm not sad as a Drakari player. The indirect fire's got a little nerf again.
Get them out of here.
Well, yeah, because at the start of the edition, it was quite oppressive, and they've tried to bring it back in line. And I think with these latest points changes, it's probably got about there. Yeah. So it needs to be, it is a very powerful mechanic in direct fire, particularly against certain armies when they've got like lower toughness armies or lower armor armies. So the points need to reflect that.
That's true. Another small change they've made as well about the transports arriving from reserves now count as having a normal move, so you can't disembark and charge.
Yeah, I think this one's more like of a clarification, but there were certain tournaments where they were ruling that you could disembark and charge from if you came in.
It's because rules
reserve.
As written is how people should be playing it, but obviously rules as intended is also out there as well.
Yes.
So again, it's just another good thing that they do. I like how they've clarified some of these things, and even on the app, the rules commentary, it's a nice little browse, to be fair. They've condensed all the stuff that has changed, so just have a quick scroll through to, if you need any clarification or anything, go check it out. It's really, really good.
Yeah, and I think players can still have a fair point in that the rules, the way the rules are written sometimes isn't as good as it could be.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Really bad. You're going to get that in any game system, I think.
And this is a massive game system as well.
It's a huge game system, and what I'm looking for from them, obviously, eventually we'd like them to get it right first time, but if you can't get it right first time, how quick can you fix it?
Yeah, exactly. And again, having the rules available on the app, it just makes so much more sense. Having to sell additional books. Like, imagine if they sold a small little manual, like, oh, here's an updated field manual. It's like, I'm not reading this. Like a little pocket thing. But yeah, really good change.
So let's talk about who came off best. Start with the successes. And we've already touched slightly on this, but Necrons are looking good.
Absolutely, just with the no changes being made. Everyone screams about the Catans being too powerful. So them not changing whatsoever, really nice. Really good.
I honestly, if Catan had gone up 10 or 15 points, I wouldn't have cried. I think it would have been reasonable because
they need to go up.
Yeah,
like, I'll admit they need to go up.
Giving them that crazy because they got in the last update they got a 5-up feel no pain, which just makes them much more resilient, which they needed because they're meant to be difficult to kill. Yeah, but that isn't necessarily reflected in their points value.
Yeah, 4-up invuln save, 5-up feel no pain, and then reanimate the wounds as well. Yeah, it can be.
It can be tanky.
Admech.
Yeah, they didn't change Admech either. They're not one that's come off best. But the reason we're talking about them now is because obviously they just got a codex at the same time as Necrons.
Yes.
And what appears to be the case is that the design studio wants to get a a certain level of data or amount of data in about a new codex before they make any changes to it.
Yeah.
So it's sad times for AdMech players, good times for Necron players, but it's going to be, I would expect both of those factions to get significant changes in the next data slate.
I think so as well. I think it's a good mention at this point as well, because since those two are the most recent codexes that have came out, and those two haven't changed as much, everything else has changed. That makes sense, because all the other ones, apart from Tyranids and maybe Space Marines, could have their codexes out as well. But since they're all working off indexes, they may as well change the indexes, because those will change when their codexes come out. So it just makes sense to get those changed now. So nice to see. Nice to see. Next on the list is Custodes. We had a few points cut across the board for those ones, and their Feel No Pain is now back against Dev wounds opposed to mortal wounds.
So that was a change in the rules commentary. So everybody who has a Feel No Pain, it now counts against mortals and Dev wounds. I think that's right.
Yeah, because it used to you have a Feel No Pain against mortal wounds inherently, but obviously now with this 10th edition, mortal wounds are kind of maybe going away, and it's now being converted over to Dev wounds now instead.
It feels like when in gameplay that there's a lot more Dev wounds than mortal wounds, doesn't it?
Yes, so then that's why the Custodes kind of fell off, because they didn't have any inherent protection against it. So now they've added on Dev wounds. Is good. And again, it's not a big change. So like if you've got your data cards and such, it's not a massive rules change. So you're not like, oh, like bugger, these are now out of date, X, Y, Z. It's like, well, no, actually, let me just tip X extra Dev wounds. On one of our cards.
Yeah, it's an easy one to remember, isn't it?
It is.
And the points cuts, the points, they got points increases in the last data slate, which is probably a little bit harsh.
Yes,
so this is
unique,
just like
they're a unique army as it is. So a points increase is quite hard for them.
It meant that you just couldn't get quite enough of them on the table. When they first came out, they were a little bit too cheap. Then they went to being slightly too expensive, and now hopefully, to use the Goldilocks analogy, hopefully this porridge is just the right temperature now.
Definitely.
So the proof will be in the gameplays, but they feel like they're in about the right place now. Not too strong and not too.
I'm looking forward to seeing them. Yeah. Definitely.
And for good times for Custodes players. Chaos Demons saw a lot of points cuts. They've been struggling. So they definitely needed this.
Yeah. I've noticed when I've played I've only played Demons twice now, but when I've seen their army, I've been like, oh, is that all they had?
Is that all they've got?
Is that all they had? And I thought like, oh, more coming in from reserves, and then
there's demons have got, there's a lot of flavor, as there should be, because of what demons are, and that can be reflected in the points for, because they're essentially elite units, because they all do something interesting. But it was just a question of finding that middle ground. If you're a chaos player, not a demons player, but a chaos player that use demons in your list as allies, they have made a bit of a change to that as well, though. So you are no longer like, this will impact Thousand Suns actually, so you're no longer able to just ally in a greater demon. For every ally demon that you bring in, you have to bring a battle line demon unit as well.
Why?
I don't know. I think it's like I said, I think it's to stop people from just like,
bringing in big.
But I mean, if you wanted to, you just ally a Chaos Knight, couldn't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's,
So and also it's Thousand Suns, like they were bringing like blue scribes. A lot of units, like a lot of armies, are bringing Nurglings, for example, like Chaos Space Marines and Death Guard. So it's like an ally tax on those factions, I guess. But we just have to see how that plays out.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's a good way of saying it.
Yeah, we'll see. Just gonna have to see how that one plays out. But it's not certainly not going to help Chaos factions. That's for sure.
Yeah. Next one is the Grey Knights. Grandmaster and Dread Knights got rules buffs.
Yeah, this is one of the rare occasions where they will actually change stat lines. So they've changed the abilities of some of the weapons, and some of the some of them weapon skill went from 3+ to a 2+.
Oh, okay.
And one of them, I think it's the heavy side cannon. They changed the AP and gave it ignores cover as well. So they made it a lot more effective.
I don't think I've seen a Dread Knight being played in this edition.
No.
I've seen it lots in 10th.
Yes,
lots in 9th.
Lots in 9th, yeah. Yeah, you're right. So, the Grandmaster got some rules buffs and the Dread Knight, so we'll hopefully see a few more of those.
The Dread Knights are the ones where there's just little, the Grey Knight guy strapped in at the front of the chest.
Yes.
I'm going to take those comments back. That looks stupid. Why on earth would you have just a guy there ready to get shot at and this mecha around him? Well,
we're going to put a mecha around you, but not some armor in front. Yeah. It's a bit like what the Invicta Tactical war suits or the Paragon war suits for the sisters. Yeah, similar.
So I can get away with the sisters? Because aren't the sisters like there to repent? Like
I think so.
like,
Yeah.
they're there strapped in.
Yeah.
If they die, well,
Nobody cares.
No one cares because they were criminals anyways.
Yeah,
so I can see why that working.
Fair enough. But yes, I know what you mean. I think on gameplay wise though, I think Grey Knights needed a little something, and hopefully this will be it. And Imperial Knights also got some points cuts, and they got another rules buff on rerolls. So I think they had reroll ones, and it's now reroll any one dice. I think it is in any phase. So it's yes.
Look, I mean, I need to get my knights built. I've got them all behind me, but
I think
they're looking. I think that's going to be my next army that I'm going to paint.
I think they're in. I think they're looking good. They were super strong when it came out. They obviously made changes to the towering rules pretty quickly to try kind of change that because they were just a bit too good. At the moment, I think they're in a good place. It'd be interesting to see where they land in the meta, but get them built. I'd like to see them on the table.
They're on 45% win rate at the minute, so they're on the bottom end of the bottom end. But at the same time, there's lots of armies down there.
I think there's lots of upside to this. I mean, giving them that points cut and a little rules buff should be enough to see them climb up there. I think
definitely. Next big one, which I think you're very much looking forward to. This one,
yes,
Drukhari. Tell me, Dan, what's going on?
Well, this one was amazing because this is unprecedented. We've never seen this before. I mean, obviously, we're only we're at the beginning, we're still in year one of 10th edition, but nobody was expecting this. So Drukhari players have been saying for a while that the faction was struggling. Yeah. In the last meta watch, Stu Black said that they were just outside the Goldlock zone, so they'd probably just get some little tweaks, nothing too
43,
big.
44.
You're a little fibber, Stu, because that isn't what happened at all.
No,
so
and
then again, I think we need to give credit where it's due because GW has listened to players.
Yeah.
So really I've been beating the drum about this. Other much more stronger and influential voices, like Sky Serpent, who's Paulie, who's a legend in Drukhari circles, one of the best Drukhari players in the world.
He's the one keeping it afloat, right?
Yeah,
He's
basically.
the one getting up to 45, 44.
But he's argued, and I've argued very strongly that GW was missing the trick here, and that the faction was worse than it was because the only people that were still playing it were largely very good players, so they were kind of artificially raising the win rate. Yeah. So if they wanted to bring more players back in or attract new players to Drukhari, they needed fundamental rules changes. So what they've done is rather than change the detachment that we've got, which is what they did to Death Guard and Votan when in the last Dataslate, is they just went, well, we've actually started work on your codex, so we'll give you one of the detachments now.
It makes so much sense. It's such a smart move by them.
Great move.
Again, I've got to give them credit where credit's due because that in itself, again, we always complain when rules are changing, you're not going to remember new stuff, or the stuff I've got written down here that I paid for is now out of date. Yeah. So giving us something new ahead of time, just so smart. Yeah, makes so much more sense.
And it avoids all of that, because all of my data cards are still valid. It's a new detachment rule essentially that makes a difference. New enhancements, new strats. And my goodness, I mean, first of all, the thing that we're very excited about is that hopefully this is a sign that the Codex is coming possibly in the summer.
Well, that makes because it makes sense. Like if they're giving us a new detachment early, it almost makes sense because obviously that detachment must be written in that book.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Yes.
Why would they give us an attachment that has different rules to the one that's coming? Yeah, and I don't see them making a brand new one just for this small gap between now and the next codex. So that doesn't make sense. So it's got to be something that's already written down.
So the signs are good in that respect. The new detachment's called the Sky Splinter Assault. And one of the things that is particularly pleasing about it is this is the difference between the Necron and the Drukhari Facebook groups. Is the Drukhari group, the Necron group are always like, this is terrible. If there's a minor change, everything's ruined and my faction's not going to win anymore. Yeah. Drukhari players got this one and they went, this feels like Drukhari. This is how I want to play. Like what the win and lose bit of it wasn't really involved in the conversation. What they wanted was their faction to feel like their faction. Do you know what I mean?
I like it. Good.
But I mean, as it happens, it does look pretty decent. I mean, where it's going to fall, we'll talk about in a minute. But they feel much more like Drukhari. It's all focused around transports arriving, some of which can come out of deep strike, so you can pop a ball over the board. Nice. Then your Drukhari spill out and they either gun you down or they charge you and mince you up.
Good.
Very nice. So you get bonuses for disembarking from transports. You get, I think it's ignores cover and sustained hits when you're disembarking on for shooting, and you get lance for melee. So if you disembark and charge, you get +1 to wound.
Ooh,
which is pretty tasty.
That's very nice. Yeah. Very nice stuff.
Sorry, it's not ignores cover for shooting. I think it's an extra AP.
Is your army that you've been building so far going to be changing to accommodate this new type?
I think, well, I'm behind, so I haven't due to illness, I haven't been able to play a lot of 40k in December and January. So I'm still playing. I've only just played my first game of 2024 last week. So I'm still probably going to run the Real Space Raid for a little while, just because I want to get more used to it, and I haven't fully experienced it yet, and I quite like it.
Good.
But
very nice.
I have all the models to do the
models.
to do this, and it allows. There's been some points cuts across the board as well for most units, so it allows you to now play some melee stuff, which was just no good before. So we have Incubi, who are the bodyguards for the Archon, except that the way the rules were written, the Archon wasn't allowed to join the Incubi units, but he can now. But he gives them, when they get a pain token, normally you can reroll hits, but if you're led by an Archon, you can reroll wound rolls as well. So you can imagine Incubi now jumping out of a transport with an Archon. If they've got a powerful pain token, they're getting reroll hits, they're getting +1 to wound and reroll wounds. They can do some damage.
Most things getting
and witches are the same. So there's also the new detachment has some fantastic strats and enhancements. The enhancements and the strats in the Real Space Raid, which is the index one, are bad. Like they're well, there's a couple of them okay, but then compared to other factions, not very good. So this is but all of the strats in here are very usable and enhanced. So some of the enhancements are really tasty. One of the enhancements allows you to turn off Overwatch against your unit, which for Drukhari is massive. Overwatch. So you can just say, I'm paying a seat. Paying a seat. Oh no, it's an enhancement, it's not a strat. So you get out of a transport and charge somebody, and they can't flame you to death.
Flamers, that against flamers. That's exactly what flamers are for. Auto hitting with flamers, but it's just that I'll talk about more later about my situations with flamers. They are terrifying.
But I think it's we all got very excited as Drukhari players. We've had some more discussions. Again, I was talking on social media to Paulie from the Sky Serpent about this, and he made a really good point that it will require some very careful management of your CP and your pain tokens, because it is quite a CP and pain token hungry detachment. But if you can make sure that you've always got CP in your pocket for those to use those strats when you need them, it's going to be quite powerful. Good. It's not going to propel. We're not going to be Necron tier. I don't think. We're not top of the meta, but we could be top tier or second tier. It's going to put them in a really good place.
It seems like a good. We'll talk about some of the who came off worst in a second, but overall, it seems like some really good changes going on.
I was really impressed, and they are not shy of using all the tools in the box. So they've used points changes on some factions, rules tweaks on some other factions, and then where on the worst performing faction, they've just gone, here's some serious help.
Now on the flip side, who's came off the worst, Dan?
Yes, I'll try not to smile through this one, but
I know, right? Massive grin already coming on my face here.
Yeah.
But Eldari, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a big nerf.
This is my only criticism is they were so insanely good before that this should have happened. I think this should have happened in the last Dataslate.
Yes, so one of the biggest changes that's happened to the Eldari players is their fate dice. They used to get 12 fate dice. They used to roll for 12 dice, and they were their fate dice or pool, whatever they could use. Now that's been halved. It is 6. Flat 6.
Yes, and this is important because there are some characters, I think it might be Eldrad, who can give you extra fate dice. And also there are some other character
extra dice.
There are also some other character abilities that can turn a fate dice into a 6.
Yes.
So you could farm fate dice from some characters and then turn them into 6s for things like devastating wounds.
Exactly.
It almost enables with that many fate dice. It enabled Eldar players to not really play the game. They were in a dice game without having to roll dice.
Exactly. So maybe just if anyone doesn't know what Eldari fate dice do, is they roll basically at the start, and then those dice they can basically choose what those do special things, and they can choose what they want to do at certain times.
Yeah. So if you rolled across the board, you roll 12 dice and you roll 2 of each. So you've got 2 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s, and then you can use them instead of a roll to hit or a roll to wound or a saving throw or whatever. So it meant that you could automatically you were guaranteed to hit or wound or save or whatever.
Yeah, you could pocket those 5, pocket those 6.
And the ability to change them to those 6, ability to change one to a 6 was massive, because then you guaranteed devastating wounds or guaranteed a save or whatever.
If you've got to roll like a D6 plus 3 damage,
there we go.
D6s plus 3, you've got like 9 damage there. It's like, oh my goodness, that's scary. So again, as you see, it taking away the dice rolling aspect to just this. All right, cool. Here's my dice that I'm going to use. It's like, no.
I mean, it's part of the flavor of Eldar is obviously they're meant to be able to see the future, and therefore they are meant to remove a bit of element of fate and luck because they know what's going to happen.
Which makes sense.
But yes, and it makes sense from a lore perspective. But as a game mechanic, it has to be restricted. Otherwise, it'd be too much.
I just think 12 was a lot.
Yeah, it was.
12 was a lot. I think 6 sounds good. I just hope, again, although I like seeing the Eldari come down in the meta because they've been up high for a very long time now. I don't want to see them disappear like a lot of factions do. So I really hope there's no... I mean, if there's an Eldari player who is listening to this podcast, let us know if this is going to be a massive change, because personally, I see this as a pretty good rollout for it to come out. I just don't know if it is going to impact us that much. So I think
I don't think they're going to end up at the bottom. Definitely, I think I still think they're going to be a decent. They also got some points increase on some of the best units, and there's a rule change to the Incarn and the Wraithguard and to Phantasm. So 3 of the... Every Eldar list I've seen, you would get Wraithguard in them, and one of the reasons was that I think is if you shot them, they could shoot anything they wanted. So they've changed that so that they can only shoot what's just shot them, which is how the mechanic works across the rest of the game, which is fair.
Most armies are like that as well.
The Incarn was able to, every time the Eldar killed a unit, the Incarn could teleport to where that enemy unit had just been and could then charge. And she can still do that, but only once per turn, because what was happening was
once per turn.
Yes, because what was happening was, let's say you shot something in my backline. Let's say you shot some death marks.
Sure.
The Incarn could teleport in.
Yeah.
Then she charges something, and then she kills that, and then she's allowed to teleport out again.
Oh, right.
So it was she was basically able to come in as like almost like an X-step missile, but then avoid the slap back.
Yeah, like you dive in backline.
Yeah.
Whenever you teleport with backline, you know you're kind of going to die in the next couple of turns. So you know you've got to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So coming in, destroying something, then going away.
Yes.
That is massive.
I mean, it's horrific. I mean, it would be terrible if, for example, there was a detachment that allowed Necrons to do that with Catan, where they could just teleport in and out. That would be hideous.
That's not a good thing. Move on down, please.
Yeah, I just realised I was digging myself a hole there, and I'm like, hang on a minute, I better shut up.
I'll cut this.
Yeah,
no one's going to hear us talk about that.
But yeah, so they did get, it was comprehensive, and I'm glad they've done it now. So the fair play to them. But realistically, this is what should have happened at the last Dataslate. Black Templars, they got points increases for a lot of their best units. Again, unless you were really biased Black Templar player, I don't think anybody could argue with it. They were just a bit too efficient.
Yeah, it's very true. Again, strange to see them not on the list though.
Yeah, not on the win rate list.
Again, although we're saying that it's deserved, it's like, well, where are they?
Oh no, they were good. Yeah, they were good. They were up there. Yeah,
good.
So speaking of up there, Chaos Space Marines, they got points increases to almost all their best units. Our friend Lewis is crying,
he's crying, but he's also looking. He's like, these are still really good.
Yeah,
these are still really playable.
Yes, they are. I mean, again, this was
he sent me a list straight after being like, "This is my new list." I'm like, "You've already made a list." This is class.
Well, and that's I joke on about him crying, but that's the right attitude to have. All right, well, let's if they've made some nerfs, let me treat it like a puzzle to solve or a challenge to overcome rather than something to get salty about.
Definitely.
And that's exactly what Lewis did.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, some of the rules, like Manny obviously won recently won the UK World Championships of Warhammer with the Chaos Space Marine list, and they were running an awful lot of Chosen and running them in Rhinos, and the Rhinos had the mark of Nurgle, which meant you could CP strat them so they couldn't be targeted outside of 12 inches.
Yeah,
and they've changed that kind of so that the unit that goes in the transport has to have the same Chaos mark as the transport itself.
Oh, okay,
which is an interesting one. So it's just to stop that gaminess a little bit. So they're reining them in because they were they were good.
Quite up there.
Yeah.
Good. Next big one is Death Guard. So Morty got a really good big little glow up. So he's got that ignores everything basically.
He ignores everything.
Pretty much there. Yeah. So basically what this does is this ability is that the Catan's half incoming damage.
Yes.
That's now gone.
Yes.
So Morty gets by that. So if Morty was to attack a Necron, it's doing like 9 or 8 damage. It would normally be 4 saves, but it's now It's actually still.
It's still the full damage. Yeah.
Which is really good.
And he definitely becomes a bit more powerful. They did give some points increases to Marines, and we were seeing a lot of Marines in Death Guard list because they're pretty good. So that's again fairly reasonable. Plagueburg Crawler's got a little points upgrade, which again I think is probably about right. Yeah. The other interesting one was they basically had the ability to kind of endlessly grenade you for free. So they've stopped that, so you can just do it once, I think now.
Yeah, another good change.
Yeah, grenades is I still keep forgetting to do this because a lot of Drakari infantry units have got the grenade keywords. They can do it, but it's a really underused strat. I'm going to try and use it more because it's just free. It's just a good way to chuck some mortal wounds on a tough target. So let me know how you use grenades, because I'm a grenade noob and I want to learn.
Know how to learn.
Yes,
love it. World Eaters, I'm surprised.
No, this one's ridiculous.
And I feel really bad.
Yeah,
for those World Eater players, but yeah, they've had a points increase and a nerf their base
best enhancement. Yeah.
Strange to see, just because
I mean they weren't doing great. No, and the challenges we've got with Votan and World Eaters is they've got half a codex worth of units. Yeah. So there just isn't enough units, and that makes balancing very hard, because if you make something slightly too cheap, then it becomes very good, because it's so prominent in the list.
We've mentioned it before, where like obviously we talk about the Lich Guard being so good that they might nerf some other or increase some other reduce some points in another unit to make them more appetizing to bring. Yeah, but with Vildiers you can't do that because there's not enough units exactly to do that.
So when they start handing the points increases out, it has much more of an impact. Yeah. And the enhancement was I think it was an invuln that like aura, so to nearby units, which was pretty good, and they've changed that. And also there's a change that makes it harder to bring Angron back. So Angron, if you don't know this, Angron obviously is the Primarch. The strategy usually is to yeet him forward and do as much damage as he can, because when he dies, World Eaters roll a bit like the Fate dice of Eldar, but they roll them every turn, don't they?
Gotta get like 3 6s.
Yeah, and if you get 3 6s, then you could bring Angron back. Yes. Yeah. But it's hard. That's harder to do, because there was
like 9 dice some, don't you?
There was an enhancement, I think, that allowed you to re-roll all of the dice all of the time, and now I think you can only do it once per game. So it's a bit trickier. Yeah. I mean, it will make those moments when that comes off even more sweeter. But
it sucks when you take down like a massive Primarch. You're like, yeah, he's gone. He's got the dexterity. Comes back. You're like, oh my lord, what is this? Yeah.
But yes,
shame to see. But, I mean, Votan, you mentioned briefly that they had a very similar boat.
They got some points increases on. I think it was Hearthguard and the Brockia Thunderkin, who I mean, both of those put out an enormous amount of shooting output.
They were the ones who can have the stratagem to shoot when they get shot at.
Yeah, I think so.
They killed it. I've got a story for later.
They are they were very efficient, and they needed it.
They killed the Catan. I'll tell you the story later.
This was another one where they got huge points cuts. Votan were the worst performing faction in the originally, and in the first Dataslate they got, or the first real Dataslate, so to speak, they got huge points cuts, which put them almost right up to like top tier. Right. And now they've realised that was a bit too much, so they're bumping them. Yeah, so it's just to rein them back in a little bit.
Makes sense.
So yeah, again, it's a very good example of them just adjusting and tweaking things to get the balance right.
Good. Next thing is orcs, right?
Orcs, yeah.
Orcs.
Yeah, trucks went up a little bit in points, but there were some points cuts for other units. They're still trying to make kill rigs playable, so it'd be interesting to see if they've done enough to get kill rigs back on the table.
Yeah, so we reached out to Dan. Dan says that he's looking forward to playing his kill rigs.
Yes.
He's got 2 of them. He says that he could now be, because I think they hold units as well.
Yes, they transport.
They're just basically bigger trucks with lots of stuff on it to shoot. So it seems like they could be doing the trick.
Yeah, they're definitely, Orc players are definitely considering them again, which is a good sign, because before this, they just weren't never going to.
No, I didn't see them since 9th. So. Just
and such a lovely, great big centerpiece model to put on the table as well, isn't it?
It is. The only issue that they got with this, so the points increases that came out kind of roughly equate to basically losing 1 extra unit that you would bring.
Right.
And that just doesn't really compete anymore against other melee armies. Like now, Custodians bringing back their Rune Feel No Pains. It just means that now, like, orcs aren't as tough anymore as what they could be.
Yeah,
losing a lot more men.
They need to be a horde army orcs because of the nature of them. They're very glass hammer. And they're still quite easy. They're tougher to kill than they have been for a while, because obviously they increased some toughnesses and stuff on in 10th edition, but they're still dying like easily. Yeah. So so we'll see where orcs go with that one.
Yeah, definitely. Right, they're the losers, right?
Yes.
Side grades, what we've got going on here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted just to apologies to people that play these factions, but I'm tempted just to rattle through these if you are.
I don't see why not, because to be fair, the reason why I thought is because there's not much change.
Yes,
it's the very minimum changes that aren't going to impact it too much, so it's not really worth a big discussion.
Yeah, exactly. So sisters, they got some points increased to the spammed units like Argofagents and the Exorcist.
Yep.
Cuts to some others, and got a nerf to the Triumph of the St. Catherine, which only allows 2 Acts of Faith now rather than unlimited. Acts of Faith was a bit like Fate dice, and it meant that they could proc a lot of damage from melter guns for sisters, so that's a good change as well.
Yep. God, the rules buffs to the orders, but some points increases to the Manticore.
Yes.
Now with 180. Strange to see many people using Manticores as well, because that was the only points increase that went up.
And it's because they've applied an across the board points increase to indirect fire, so Manticore's got it, even though Guard is struggling, which seems a bit. I don't know. Yeah, I think Guard needed a lot more than just changing the orders, and I think they're still going to struggle.
Yeah, definitely.
Blood Angels, this is interesting because their army rule now gives them +2 strength on the charge instead of +1. I don't think it's enough to make them competitive, but in certain cases they will be able to hit quite hard now. I mean, you're talking about strength 10 power fist, which is pretty tasty.
Yeah,
like you could take down light vehicles with that.
Yeah, tanks are wooding on freeze now.
Yeah,
but still not great.
It's still not great.
Yeah. Specials?
Exactly the same. They got a slight uptick, but not enough, I don't think, to really move the dial. Wolfen, they got went from damage 1 to damage 2, and the overall Space Wolves, their sagas are easy to do, which they're not. Which if they complete these like tertiary objectives, then they get extra buffs and stuff.
Definitely.
So there's definitely it's definitely a good news, but whether it's going to really push them, I don't know.
Yeah. Chaos Knights, points cuts for big guns.
Points cuts for the big fellas, and points increases for the brigand dogs. So we'll see how that plays out. I mean, the challenge. This is about internal balance, because you were seeing Chaos Knight players just running the dogs. It was basically all dog lists.
Yeah.
So this is to try and persuade them to take more big knights.
Yep.
Gene Stealer cults.
No changes.
Thousand Suns.
No changes.
Yeah, back to being unloved again, as our friend Alex is used to. He's
used to it now. He's used to the pain.
Yeah.
Stay hanging there, mate.
Admit we've touched on no changes, but I will predict them. Well, we both predict that there'll be big changes by spring. Next Dataslate, they'll get a big uplift.
Yeah.
Space Marines, more internal, but really about internal balance. Points nerfs to some of the good units like aggressors, but cuts to others like assault intercessors. Let's see how it plays out. Yeah. I don't think it's going to change much. Tau crisis suits rightly went up in points because they were ridiculously cheap. They got a huge point cuts in the last data slate. So this is again about trying to find some a happy medium.
Exactly. Yep.
And NIDS, interestingly, got points cuts to a few big bugs and increases to some of the popular units. Like Gargoyles got an increase, which is just weird.
They're very strong. They're very fast.
They are fast, but
deep strike fast.
I just
point scores basically.
Yeah, I don't think NIDS are because NIDS are struggling. I think this was an issue where this is a case where they've tried to address internal balance when actually they needed to just get the balance right first. Yeah. Like make them competitive first and then do internal balance, because they're still not competitive.
Yeah.
Right. So
that was the side grades, because again they're in like the 47, 48%, 50 marks. So there's
and they're just
going to be any changes.
Exactly. You're exactly right. They haven't. GW has made little tweaks where necessary, or in some cases hasn't quite got it right like NIDS, but overall not much is going to change for those factions.
Not at all. That is pretty much it for the data slate, right? That is all of the changes.
I mean, yes.
Very brief overview.
In terms of what it's going to do to the meta, I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's such a huge amount of changes. We said it was going to shake up the meta. It really is. And I think it's going to take a little while to settle. I'm still very confident Necrons will be, if not top dogs, then fairly close to the top. But where everybody else is going to shake out yet, I'm not entirely sure.
I'd be interested to see.
Yeah.
For me, I just think the changes are great. I think they've hit I think they've absolutely nailed it personally. I think there are some ones that do need to be looked at again, like the World Eaters. That's a bit of a shame.
Yes, World Eaters and NIDS definitely need some love.
I mean, look at all the major kind of places like Facebook, Discord, Reddit. I've not seen any big pitchforks out.
Yeah, no. And I've seen a lot of praise for them as well, actually. I think generally speaking, they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
One of the long-term fans of this podcast will know that one of my things I'm trying to make a catchphrase is make melee great again, because it has 10th has very much been shooty hammer rather than melee hammer, and this does feel like they are, World Eaters aside, this does feel like they are trying to improve that. So Blood Angels and Space Wolves are melee factions, and they've given them a bit more punch in melee. Custodes are looking a bit more threatening. They're very much in melee army. Dark Eldar, the new detachment, is very much melee focused. So melee is, I still think they're trying to avoid it from becoming too OP, but they're gradually introducing a bit more melee playability, I think.
I completely agree. Yeah, again, some really smart changes they've made in this Dataslate. So looking forward to more smart changes in the future.
Yeah, I mean, a massive thumbs up from me, and I guess from you as well. That I think Stu Black and the design team have done a brilliant job. It's not 100% perfect, but nothing ever is going to be. But overall, you know, this has continued the great direction of travel in terms of balancing the game.
Definitely. Next big thing then that we've been, I've recently been to.
So we talk about meta a lot, but also we're contrarians. Like sometimes, I mean, I've been playing Jakari when they were bottom faction, but also you went a step further than me and took a what was considered to be a bad detachment to a lot of tournament.
A lot of negativity around this detachment. So I went to an RTT. I took the Annihilation Legion for Necrons.
Yes.
A lot of
this is meant. Yeah, if you listen to a lot of Necron players, they would tell you this is trash.
Yes, they do, and rightly so though, because a lot of stratagems they have force you to basically use them on units that are below half strength.
Yes.
So there's not a lot of times
it's
where
situational.
Exactly. You'll never have a unit below. Not say never. You'll rarely have a unit below half strength. And all my ability does, or my detachment rule does, is it gives me a plus a reroll charge roll for any flayed ones or destroyer cult units.
Fair enough.
But that means that obviously Catans don't get it, Lich Guard don't get it, Wraiths don't get it. So you've got to really go heavy on the flayed ones or destroyers. And then if the unit's below half strength, you get an extra 1 to the charge, which again isn't really all that great, but it can make the difference every now and then. But in my games, it did not make any difference whatsoever. But yes, the detachment that I brought, you know, I tried to build my list. Because I remember building my list originally, because I love flayed ones. You know, I bring them all the time, and I kept on bringing like 5 flayed ones to try and get the most use out of the ability. My friends kept saying, "Oh, the flayed ones aren't very good. Like, don't bring them to the tournament X, Y, Z." I doubled down. I brought 30. Brought 30 flayed ones.
So instead of 2 units of 5, you brought 3 units of 10. Nice.
I just felt like I had to. And then I managed to paint up 12 Locust Lords, 12 Locust Destroyers.
Very good.
I really love them units, led by 2 Locust Lords. So that's 2 units of
when
6.
they're led by the Lords, they're pretty tasty. Is it
criticals on 5?
Criticals on 5s, nice.
Lethal hits on 6s, going to 5s.
Nice.
So basically auto wounding, which is unreal against the majority of units that I've ever
and
faced.
those guns are 2 damage, aren't they? The Locust Destroyers, so that's
flat
tasty.
2 damage, -2 as well, and also reroll 1s. But if the opponent is on an objective marker, you get to reroll the hit roll.
Nice.
So basically, you're fishing for 5s, which you want to do, basically.
Yeah.
Because they're hitting on 3s anyways, so you may as well take the risk and go for extra 5s. I took 9 Ophidian Destroyers as well.
Yeah, that was a surprise a few people.
No one's seen them in tournaments before. Everyone at first were like, what are those? And I was like, well, let me tell you. But not, so those ones are really good because they are, at the end of your opponent's turn, I can basically bring them off. I've got an ability called Tunneling Horrors. I can bring them back in my reinforcement step.
So it gives you a bit of the play that's in the Hypercrypt detachments of that, like, come off the board and come back on.
But the good thing about this one is that I can do it in my turn 1. And this was where everyone was like, oh, can you do that? And again, in the rules commentary that just came out with this one, you can do it. You basically count them as being one turn ahead.
Yeah.
So yes, you can do it. I brought on top of that 2 Catans, the Transcendent and the Void Dragon.
Oh, nice.
Because I was worried about vehicles, so I brought the Void Dragon, and then the Transcendent. He's just an absolute pain to deal with. And then 4 Heavy Destroyers, again, just for more vehicles, just in case, because I've versed Knights before, and they're just hard to kind of...
Yeah, if you come across Knights or a vehicle heavy list, you need a lot of anti-tank, don't you?
Exactly. So basically, I had a really good range of movement, shooting, melee, and toughness, basically, because I just had to position well so that they shot at my Catans to take all the damage and keep my main unit safe. Worked really well, to be fair. Well, I won't get into the detail of each of the games, but I won all 3 games.
Nice.
And overall came 3rd in the tournament.
So with an unfashionable Annihilation Legion list, you still managed to get a podium place. Definitely. That's fantastic work.
Got a little medal actually. Just
very nice.
Majority T3. That was who hosted it.
So it was the event was called To the Brink, and these are monthly RTT. So they do count for ITC points. They attracted competitive crowd. They're in a brewery. Ricky, who runs Majority T3, is literally organising the piss up in a brewery. Well done, Ricky.
Very nice. Very nice.
But these we're very pleased to see these back because there's been a dearth of events in the Northeast, and Ricky is really going for it this year. So there's going to be, ideally, there's going to be one of these a month, apart from a couple of months when there's probably going to be a GT, I think a bigger GT.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, because he also runs the Northeast Open, which is the one that we went to last year.
Yes.
Which wasn't really in the brewery, but it was still a great event.
Oh, yeah, always good events. But yeah, again, really good day overall. I had 3 opponents for 3 games, and again, really, really fun.
So you played Salamander's first round?
Salamander's first game, yes. Again, great game. I was terrified of their flamers.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? My flayed ones will just die to them. So I played ultra defensively. I just kept back. There's even a point where I forgot to move one turn, and then the opponent was very nice. They were like, oh, well, would you like to move? I was like, no. I was like, even if I did, I think you're going to destroy us. I was like, no. I was like, I'm good. I'll stay there. And even though I could have took the point from her and definitely killed our scouts, I was like, no, I've missed my turn, and I've already done some rolls ahead of time. I was like, you're too kind, but no.
It's really good sportsmanship, isn't it?
It really was. It really was. It was very nice of her. But
that was Hannah that you played game 1, was it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
it was.
So good sportsmanship, Hannah. Well done.
It really was. And it was good though, because I played very defensively because I knew I had to fish Overwatch from her.
Yes.
So every single turn, it was literally, I think, only turn 3 is where I started to actually score big points, because I just kind of held back for 3 turns.
Right.
And then I was like, I need to wait for it to use that Overwatch.
Yeah.
As soon as that Overwatch is gone, I'm running up the
So you're
board.
trying to get that on the Catans and then get your more fragile units up the board afterwards. Yeah.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
So literally it was only the start of her turn 3, because Hannah went first, and done the Overwatch on my Catan. As soon as my Overwatch happened, I was like,
get in.
I'm going in. Flayed ones up, 2 Catans up, reserves came in and everything on turn 3, because obviously I had to anyways. But it was very good. Blasted her off all 3 points, and then I was just like, right, now I'm going to hold it and just score as many points as I can. And luckily I managed to just kind of position really well to shoot down the big vehicles that were coming off, and my Catan rolled really well in terms of toughness. Like, just couldn't get through.
Nice.
Did take off 8 wounds off my Catan in one turn from the flamers. Oof. So I was like, I'm going to charge those. I'm going to get rid of those, because they are not healthy.
I do like the Salamanders isn't the strongest detachment in the. I can't remember what the detachment's called. It's Firestorm Assault or something.
That sounds about right.
But it's not. Again, that's not the strongest one in the index, in the Space Marines Codex. Sorry, but it's for Salamanders. You have to play them that way.
Oh, yeah, really well painted green as well.
Nice, and really that was a convincing victory for you. You played very well.
Yes,
and the next game was really tight, wasn't it?
It was. Yes, it was against Votan player. It was 75 to me, 74 to them. Whew. Very close.
Very hard fought.
Yes, and it was really good, to be fair, because I was on the back foot all game.
Yeah,
like I had to just make sure I was again playing very defensively. He said, like, obviously I've got a lot of bikes here who can do some damage, so I just kept my units back to shoot at his vehicles to chip them down as much as I can before I moved up, because I knew that his land fortresses could outshoot me for days, and his bikes could outmaneuver me for days. So I played really well, but using the Ophidian Destroyers turn 1, where I charged his 2 bikes.
All right,
to get rid of them, tie them up, so they couldn't fall back, and because they can go off the board and come back in.
Yes.
Didn't want that at all. So I managed to take them out very early doors, which was really good. And then I don't understand how, but my flayed ones survived throughout most of the game, and he charged his HQ and 3 bikes into a squad of 10 squad of flayed ones and survived.
Oh my goodness!
He fell back, ran, charged it again, survived. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, I'm sorry, mate. And it unfortunately played against me, because I needed them flayed ones to draw out his units. And as soon as they drew out, I then pop out and get my Katana or my shooting off on them. But they survived, and I was like, oh, now the time to come. I generally wanted them to die. But it was good that they survived, because I did have some really good players later on. And I briefly mentioned about I forgot what the units they're called, but he literally said to me as I was starting to pick what units I wanted to shoot, he goes, if you shoot these, I have a stratagem to shoot back at you.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, no worries. In one ear, out the other. Picked up my Katana. Like, he's going to shoot at them. And he's sitting there like, sure, yeah, go ahead. And he just told me, I whiffed all my shots. And he goes, I'm going to spend a CP and shoot back. And I start laughing. I'm like, yeah, you just told me that. you crack on. And he shoots back and kills my Katana.
Oh.
Took off 8 wounds. in my shooting phase, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Okay,
mate, well
thanks.
done.
Yeah.
I was like, absolutely well done.
Yeah.
It was another little funny story because he got those units are teleported in my backline, so I had nothing else to defend myself.
So I believe his Hearthguard then probably was it? They drop in. Yeah, they're like their
Power
Terminators.
fists.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good shooting as well.
Yeah, they're a good unit.
It was pretty good though because he charged over his turn. He moved up and went to go charge my home field objective. And I had my Lux destroyers on that have 2 OC each. And,
Yeah.
He rolls and it was a pretty good roll. And he starts measuring. He starts moving his models up, and he goes, I just don't think I'll be able to get this objective off you. I look. I'm like, no, of course you can. I'm like, look, and I start telling him, you can move your models through your own.
Yes.
So move those ones first, and then the ones that, obviously you've got to go base to base first.
Yes.
But if you move the ones through your models first, then the ones further forward can sneak around.
Can get around,
So I was showing him, and I was like moving his models. I was like, you can steal this from us. And I look at him, and he's looking behind us, and I turn around, and it's his mate sitting behind us, and he's like, yeah, no, he's right. He's doing you a solid here. I'm like, yeah, I'm not cheating. I'm like, I'm helping you steal my objective from us. And he goes, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, yeah, look, just like in any movement phase, you can move through your own models. So he was like, yeah, well.
That's also very good sportsmanship. Yeah, fair play to you. Particularly in a game that's that tight. You could have, another player would have just let them make that mistake just so you didn't score the points.
Oh, easily. But I was like, I would do that. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I mean, I said to him because
it's the right thing to do.
Well, he was measuring as well, and he was like, oh, it's about 5 or 6 to get in a charge range somewhere else. I was like, oh, it's 5. And he's like, you want to check? I was like, just get a roll dice. Yeah. Just get in. Like, just crack on. I'm
fair play to you. That's the right vibe, and that's the kind of culture that we want to encourage at RTTs. Yeah. We don't want to be sweaty.
What's the point?
Yeah.
It doesn't go towards any ITC points or anything like that. It means nothing at all. So no need, no point.
And then last game was so you went 3 for 3. Last game was not as close, but still decent.
Yeah, again, really good game, 77 to 51.
Right.
But I was very happy though because he was another Necron player, and I've not played Necrons in a very long time.
No, a mirror match. Well, not a mirror match though, because what detachment was he?
He was playing the Hypercrypt Legion.
Right.
So that was the teleporting one.
Yes.
Like what was in the LVA Las Vegas Open.
Yes.
So I was really worried because they have a lot of teleporting shenanigans. They can get around the board, 3-inch deep strike, and it was scary.
Yeah.
So I instantly knew, right, I've got to out deep strike him. So I was using my Ophidian destroyers to move around the board.
Right, yeah.
My Transcendent Catan can get around the board.
Yes.
Luckily, I got my Transcendent Catan in his backline and 2 Ophidian destroyers in his backline.
Right.
Just to tie units up.
Yes.
So they couldn't then teleport away because they can't.
And can't teleport out of melee.
Exactly.
Right. Brilliant.
So tied them up. I outmaneuvered around the board. We had a Catan face off in the middle. They were behind like a building, like a ruins.
Mm.
Now Catans can't fly over buildings anymore. They've got to go around. So for 2-3 turns, our Catans just stared at each other through the buildings because we knew whoever moved first would be able to get the charge off.
So yeah,
it was just
like a Mexican standoff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, no, this makes sense because my Catan, he has a Nightbringer, and I only had the Void Dragon.
Right.
I was like, you're going to outdo me, so I'm happy just to waste my points staring at each other because I controlled the board anyways.
Right. So if you had the board control, he has to come to get you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I was like, I'm not going to charge this Catan. He probably thinks I am. So as soon as he moved his Catan up one way, because the Catan's only moved 6 inches now, I was like, great. I was like, this Catan's going to fly over a different way. And then I then dominantly had one side of the board. So I was like, this is great. I was like, and then his Catan only got into my backline turn 4, turn 5.
That's perfect. Yeah.
It just made,
you're really limiting their effectiveness for the points you have to pay.
Exactly. So again, really good game. Kept him on his back foot. And I added him on Facebook because he says, is that your Transcendent Catan? I was like, oh yeah, I've got a 3D printed. He's like, oh, I really need one. I was like, oh, here's on Facebook. We'll get one printed. So
nice.
He's coming around on Thursday to come pick that up.
Nice.
Just to because they were that good in the game. He was like, I need one. And I was like, yeah, I'll get you one. Yeah. I'll get you one.
Yours looks really nice as well. You've done a great job on the airbrush and that.
You're surprised the airbrush came out this good. I've struggled a long time with the airbrush.
You're getting nice definitely getting the mastery of it now. Yeah, but he looks lush.
Yeah. But they were the games that I had. And really nice ones.
How was the RTT? Did it feel? We talked about balance in the meta and stuff. Was that reflected in what you saw at the tournament?
I think it was because there wasn't like a one-sided. There wasn't just Eldari players for days. There wasn't Gene Stealer cults for days. Yeah. It was a very good mix of people. Like
nice.
There was 3 Necron players, and all 3 took different attachments.
That's brilliant. That's good to see.
Exactly, because in most places you might see I remember going to my 9th edition tournaments for Necrons, and they were like, "Oh, you bring in such and such," because they were like,
everybody was bringing the Obsec Dynasty, weren't they?
Exactly.
In 9th, because you got objective secured and 6-inch pre-game move.
Exactly.
And it was just better than everything else.
It was. So seeing a mix of detachments is just nice to see. And
yeah,
even the armies, I don't think there was more than 3. I think Necrons were the highest with 3. And I think that was it. There was a good mix across the board.
Good.
Votan, World Eaters, Imperial Guard, Tights, Chaos, really good stuff.
That's what you want to see.
Yeah.
And what was the vibe like? The majority T3 events usually attract a nice crowd. Was it?
Again, I had some really good players for my ones. Yeah, I think the only one I heard who won the tournament, he wasn't bad or anything like that. He was there to win, and he knew his army.
Yes,
and he had done a lot of pre-measuring, which some people are like, you pre-measured, so like it seems not meta to like pre-game pre-measure.
I mean,
even before the game starts, people are pre-measuring.
All the top players pre-measure. It's something that I don't usually do a lot of because I don't have the mental capacity to remember all the
like you start putting dice down. And you're like, why is this dice here? But so he was pre-measuring. He was a stickler for doing stuff in the correct sequence, even though the outcome was still the same.
Right, okay.
But like, I guess again, that's just
it's just good practice, I suppose.
Good practice, and he's a good player because he knows the sequence.
Yeah,
it's like you must do this and then move. But I think like coming out of the transport, he was going to move like within 5 inches or within 3, and then do his move. And so he was basically saying, "Oh well, they move 8, so I'm going to move like 12." And he was like, "No, make sure they come out first." Like within 3 inches, and then move your distance. And then he was like, "Oh, but it's gonna be the same distance anyways." But the player was like, "Well, no, it's the sequence of events." So, maybe he knows more than me. I mean, but that was the only negativity. But again, I won't say that's negative. That's just him being a good player and knowing how the game needs to work.
It's I think it's more of a vibe thing, isn't it? So like generally speaking,
vibe check at home.
Well, it is. Generally speaking, the majority of T3 events in particular have a good vibe.
Yeah,
and there's a bit more. They're a little bit more relaxed than a proper tournament.
Yeah,
whereas this guy's vibe was obviously proper tournament.
Well, just still mindset.
If you go to a lot of events, I suppose you have to have that mindset.
Yeah, really. For sure.
So I mean, and it's just a clash of cultures rather than anything that overtly bad.
It is, and like I say, not a bad thing. And again, the players who played against him learned a lot.
Yeah,
he's a really good player. So like even though the game ended a lot sooner, I have time for questions. I have time to be like, well, how would you do this? What would you do next? Kind of thing. So
I do like that in a good player that they will help lift others up and help explain issues. That you should have done this differently, or maybe try this or whatever.
We've mentioned it before. Like if you do think you are going to be one-sided, just give the player an extra time. He's there to roll dice.
Yeah.
You let him learn, help him learn.
Yeah,
educate him, because if you destroy him too much, we mentioned it before, but they're not going to want to play again.
Nobody really wants to get smashed all over, do they?
Nah, not at all.
Good.
Yeah, really good vibe, really good day, really well hosted again as well. Loved the place. Food was nice. Had cheese and chips.
Oh yes, Brinkburn. The food in the Brinkburn is good. If you're coming up to the northeast for one of these events, we can definitely recommend them. They're called the Facebook page you need to follow is Majority T3.
Yep.
And the events are called To the Brink. And also keep a lookout for news on the Northeast Open.
Yeah.
We'll bring it to you as soon as we get it from Ricky as well.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll both be there.
Yes.
So I couldn't get to these monthly tournaments because I've got other things going on. But
definitely
the next ones I will, because you would definitely go back, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, I'm going back. I love these local tournaments.
Good.
Just like say localness just makes it more easier.
Yeah.
It's only like a 10-minute drive for me, so why not?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Go there, come third. Every day.
Yeah, happy days, yeah.
So yes, no, very good. But
so last but not least, based on the tournament experience and obviously the fact that we've just had this data slate, what changes is that going to make? Will you stick with Annihilation Legion? Are you going to look at trying other detachments? What's happening?
I feel like I've completed it now.
Completed.
Yeah. No, but I do joke, and I think you don't want to get fixated on sticking on one detachment or one set of army list. I do like to change it up. I feel like it is nice. I do want to be an absolute. What's the word? Nasty pasty. I'm going to go with nice YouTube friendly word and bring an old Catan list.
Yeah,
and make everyone hate me.
you shared one with us, and I was like, "Oof,
yeah,
that looks awful."
I couldn't fit it. I can fit a Catan, all my Catans in, and a monolith, but I don't have enough points for a HQ warlord. You need a warlord, so I had to get rid of the monolith, unfortunately.
So you're talking about, just for clarification, you're talking about one of each of the name Catan and then 3 transcendent Catans. Is that right? Oh,
yes.
And then a couple of action monkey units.
Exactly.
And a warlord.
A couple of flayed ones, kind of them. And then
Is it what was your warlord in that list?
Oh, it's just a royal warden. I think it's the cheapest.
Is it?
Yeah.
Was it not a Hexmark destroyer or something?
Oh no, it might have been.
Yeah, in the first iteration, it was a Hexmark destroyer.
Yeah, just for deep strike.
I didn't even know there could be a warlord, but that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the Catans might work with the Hypercup Legion because again, I can then teleport them around.
Oh yeah.
All the
It'll
other
be a nightmare.
Exactly. Unfortunately, all the other detachments don't allow Catans to get their stratagems and or like their main rules off.
Right.
So the only one I am limited, but again, I mentioned it last time. It would be really good to see a Catan detachment.
Yes, yes. I still think there should be a Catan detachment, like
really
Pokemon detachment would be good.
Yeah. So really nothing's going to be. I mean, this list that I brought, nothing's really going to change. I think I'm just going to change my list up to accommodate other detachments.
Well, we're very lucky. The Necron Codex is good, and as much as people said, some people said Annihilation Legion is trash. It's not as good as the top two. No, and some people would argue it's not as good as the Index one that we had either. But I think it's on a par with their maybe's.
Again, you've got to really go into it. Like again, I mean, all the units that I mentioned are all destroyer or flayed one units.
Yeah. So you leaned right in. Yeah, it was just your Catans.
Just my Catans, exactly, who don't benefit from any stratagems, but they're strong enough
to not. Yes.
Yeah. So as long as you can't pick it and then be like, oh, I'll bring some Lich Guard. Nah, you can't. There's no stratagems that would help you whatsoever.
Yeah, you're going to bring Annihilation Legion. You can't bring Lich Guard. You can't bring Warriors. Can't bring Immortals. You've got to lean right into it and embrace the rage. Yeah, you do. The Destroyer Rage.
I call it Flesh Please.
Yeah.
I like coming up with really creative names. Yeah. I had one for the Monolith list as well. That I left on. I forgot what it was now, but I left it on there and I uploaded the list, and I was like, maybe shouldn't have put this. I was like, monolith meme list or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
funny. What about you? Any big changes that you're going to be doing in your lists then?
I mean, I've just spent probably about a whole day of my life building and priming 6 Talos, which are the quite kind of like monsters. They're not Catan equivalents, but they're small monsters. You want them in units of 2, so 3 units of 2.
Nice. And
I played a game with them. First game I played this year against our friend Jared. Brought Gene Stealer Cults, and I thought I'm going to take 6 of them, triple Talos list, and see how they go. And they were money, like they were really good.
Very nice. Scary.
But so whether I want to build a list around them. So I might play the Real Space Raid as it is with them. I want to play a couple more games with the list I've got, see if it works. Is it as good as that, or did it just play well into Gene Stealer Cults? Because Gene Stealer Cults struggled against Drukhari because of our movement, because Gene Stealer Cults' main thing is that you can bring units back. So you kill a unit on a 4-up, it can come back, and it becomes like a blip. You put a little blip down on the board, and then if I get within my movement phase, if I get to within 9 inches, that blip is destroyed.
Yes.
And so with the speed and deep strike abilities of Drukhari, everywhere he put a blip, I'm just like, well, I'll have that. I'll go there. So he only got back about 1 unit out of 8 or something that came.
Really good. Yeah,
so
that's really good.
So that was a tough matchup for Gene Stealer Cults, and Jared played a good game, and it was actually quite close still. But I want to see what they're like running them against, say, Necrons, for example.
Nice.
After that, then there is some. Then I definitely I'm excited to try and play the Sky Splinter Assault. But I do think again it's a bit of a big brain detachment. It will require quite a lot of very careful planning and thinking and balance as well. So I've seen a lot of Drukhari players already, like, as we do, we're excited sharing lists what do you think about this? And a lot of them are running 20-30 witches in Raiders, and then a bunch of Incubi as well, like maybe 2 or 3 units of Incubi, and I'm like, as the meta stands now, that's just too much melee, because melee is anti-infantry basically. Or if you're lucky, you might take out light vehicles or monsters, but you're not going to hurt tanks and Catan with melee realistically,
because they'll just clap back and
so you probably still need some of those Talos. You definitely need some Dark Lances in there. You're going to need some shooting ability as well. So we'll see how it plays out, but in the meantime, I'm just really happy that Drukhari have got options. There's
the extra detachments are very nice.
And that's without even touching Necrons. And I think, as I said, we're blessed with Necrons in terms of the detachments that we can choose are largely pretty good. And both you and I have got quite broad Necron collections, so it enables us to dive. If, like you're saying, you lean into something, you can go as much as you can do a Catan meme list. You can also lean into destroyers and do an Annihilation Legion. You can bring the Immortals out and have a bit more of a mixed list for Hypercrypt or whatever. You can get the Wraiths out for Canoptic Court. So we've got so many options there. There's a lot. There's the next few months are going to be very, very good for Necron players. But as much as we just talked about, if you're playing competitively, great. Build some filthy lists and go and smash opponents, and let's to see some Necrons win some tournaments. They've just won the LVO, so let's see. But if you're playing with your mates, use this as a time to experiment as much as anything else. So find out what play style suits you, which units do and don't work, but don't just build filthy lists and smash all your mates off the table.
Definitely not. Well, no, fantastic. Well, I think that's kind of it then, isn't it?
Yeah, great chat again. Thank you very much. And thank you as always. Please like, share and subscribe. We're terrible at remembering to say this during the videos, but it does mean a lot to us. And what means the most to us is your comments and replies and engagement on Instagram and particularly on YouTube. So please keep all of that coming as well. Tell us what we've missed. Tell us what you like and dislike, and tell us what the balanced data slate really means for you.